Hi, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome back to the channel. If you love anime, heartfelt reactions, and deep dives into symbolism and themes, then you're in the right place. Before we jump into today's reaction, don't forget to hit that like button to show some love, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a moment of fun. And if you want even more exclusive content like early access to my reactions, full length anime watch alongs, and an amazing community of fellow anime lovers, please do check out my Patreon. You can find a link in the description box below. Your support truly means the world as it helps to keep these reactions coming, and I'd love to have you join our cozy little anime family. Today we are reacting to episode 11 of series 4 of Attack on Titan. My voice is going because I filmed episode 9 and episode 10 and they were very long, so if I don't talk as much in this episode, I do apologize. My voice is is fading out on me. I spoke for about 2 hours for one episode and spoke for over an hour on the other. So I'm kind of yapped out a little bit. It's why I tend to film 2 episodes together instead of 3, because those 2 episodes alone were 3 hours long combined, and that was react and discussion. I'm kind of worried how long this next episode is going to be because a lot has been happening and there's a lot to talk about. And I probably still have missed so much foreshadowing and symbolism nonetheless because there's so much hidden. And I probably missed some really obvious things too because, again, I'm only human. It's a first time watch. I won't catch everything. And I think that's okay. I try to catch as much as I can. But again, first time watch, I can't catch everything. I do try, but it's hard to catch everything. But we're not going to have a long intro. We're going to get straight into it. I still don't think Histori is actually pregnant. I think it's a fake baby bump, but I could be proven wrong. I think it'd be really hard to fake a pregnancy, but I don't think it's impossible to do so. I don't think it's real. There's just something screaming to me like it's not real. I don't think she would get pregnant for the sole purpose of protecting herself. I think she would fake a pregnancy, but I don't think she would actually have a baby. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she is that desperate to protect herself, but hey ho, she doesn't look happy about it either way. We'll see, but it's kind of wild to me that that seems to be the way her narrative is going. Not what I anticipated, but it is what it is. Either way, we're going to get into episode 11 of Attack on Titan, and I'm going to rest up my voice as much as I can because I expect the outro is going to be super, super long as well. Is she faking it to get out, or is she like genuinely in pain? She's faking it. Of course she is. Similar to what she did in the first episode. Oh wow, okay. He was worried about her. She's paranoid, yeah. Everything she thought she knew has been ripped out from under her, so... Is Reiner gonna make a return to paradise? I feel like he's gonna have to because of Colt and... Gabby. Peek's okay, Peek's back. Not here. How's Colt taking it? Because he watched it happen. He's right. You don't know that. I would want answers too. What choice does he have? Kind of like her lifeline to being a candidate. It's her only memory at the minute of home. She's just like everyone else without it. There's no way she can be distinguished. Because he cares about you, Gabby. Is that The little girl that Sasha's dad took in? Gabby, don't you fucking dare. Put that down.
そう。お腹空いたでしょ。近くに私の家があるからついてきて。
Or maybe it's a different girl, but she looks similar to that girl. And there's horses. I think it's... Oh no! It is going to be, and then she's going to meet Sasha's family, and she's going to realize the impact of what she's done. It is. It's Sasha's parents she's going to meet. And she killed Sasha. Fuck. Oh no! And they're being kind and taking her in. Did she just say that Sasha's dad had a Southern Malian accent? She did. So Sasha's dad must come from the continent. I know they all came from the continent at some point, but how has he retained it for so many years? Maybe because they were so isolated that he's retained that accent, just been passed down from generation to generation. Or maybe he has come from the Malian coastline. Or maybe it's just meant to show to Gabby that they're not as different as what she thinks them to be. That they're more alike than she realizes. Just because she thinks they're the devil and that she's some superior audience, that's not the case. It could just be essentially that at some point her family were from the south of Malay, and then when the wars were being established, her family left and came within the walls, and their history was wiped, but that accent would have remained, and they lived quite isolated, so it was probably passed down from child to child to child, because regional accents usually are. So that regional accent could have just stuck and then just passed on down. I think this is probably just meant to make Gabby think more about the people she's interacting with and engaging with, that they're not as different as she expects them to be, that they're closer to home than she realizes.
そげん子供が頭を下げるもんやない。ブラス厩舎へよう来たね。何日でもおったらいいって。そしたらはよ、朝飯
Have they just been taking in orphans to raise?
疲れてるやろ。それ食べたら横になっていいけんね。ごめんね。辛いことがあったんやろうに。いいえ。
It's not what she expected it to be. Her brain cannot quite comprehend that what she's seeing isn't what she thought it would be.
すると、あちらが例の観測機でしょうか。
はい。氷瀑石を燃料に用いて実現した
Oh, a flying boat. Interesting. Okay.
地ならしの力見定めさせていただきます。
志願しなっから全住民強制退去命令だって。区の再建にリーブス紹介を発生したのは兵団だろ。
憲兵に当たってくれ。
ハンジさん。イエーガー氏がもたらした勝利により我々の未来は開かれた。
We're beginning to see the extremists emerging, aren't we?
兵団とイエーガー氏との関係は我々エルディア国民の問題です。
The people that see Eren as the hope for humanity and the god.
納税者に委ねられるとおっしゃっていましたが。
状況が変わったんだよ。壁が開かれ世界とつながり、情報の持つ意味が変わったんだ。
They're all in a tough situation.
信じていいって。
She's not going to be able to, is she?
すべてはエルディア国民、みんなのためだ。
Oh, Hanji. She's doing her best.
エレンの情報を渡したのは君たちか。ホルガ、ビム、ルイーゼ。
Of course, Flock's
君
here.
たちとフロック。
He idolizes Eren based on some of the dialogue we've had. See?
彼は何も間違ったことをしていない。
Told you it was going to happen, that there was going to be a split.
勝利を手に入れた。エレンは我々、神聖エルディア帝国国民全員の命を救いました。
その地ならしが期待通りに
Why is he talking about this new Aldean empire that nobody else is talking about? Just
言っ
Flock.
てしまえば人から聞いた話に過ぎない。
この国を導くのはエレン・イェーガーです。 今すぐ
Told
彼を
you.
解放してください。
Told you. I said this back when Flock reappeared. Aaron's going to be seen as this symbol of humanity, this symbol of hope, and there's going to be people that go to the extreme and people that disagree that Aaron's way is the right way.
君たちはエレンの情報を外に漏らした罪で裁かれる。
They're doing it to rally support for Aaron.
歴中人類の勝利のためなら本望です。
Sounds almost like something Erwin would say, to be honest.
多分順番がある。役を降りても誰かがすぐに代わりを演じ始める。
And it repeats.
頑張れよ、ハンジ。
Oh, Hanji.
いや、まだ調べ
The
ること
weight
が
of
あ
it
る。
all, it's so much pressure. She's only human. She's trying her
ここは
best.
ミカサさんの入ったことのある棒ですか？
え、違うけど。
あ、でも兵器違反は後悔していません。勝利が調査兵団の目的なら、
Is that the
祖国を
young
守ること
girl
は
that
必ずし
Mikasa
も絶
rescued
対というわけで
in
はありませんよ
series
ね。
1?
やめなさいルイーゼ。刑期が伸びるだけだから。
私はあなたに命を救われたあの日から
It
あの時
is.
のままです。巨人を人の力でねじ伏せたあなたを見て分かったのです。力がなければ何も守れないと。あの日から少しでもあなたに近づきたくて。私はミカサさんが調査兵団に入った理由は何ですか？イエガーさんのためなら彼の自由を。
私から言えることは一つ。口を閉じてなさい。
She just wants a better future for herself, doesn't she? I mean, they all do in some way. It's just going to be difficult for everyone to reconcile themselves with.
もう大丈夫だ。ミカサ。
Oh, okay. Interesting. So she's having flashbacks to that time, but she's seen Eren almost in a very negative light. She always saw it in a very romanticized type of view. And is this maybe her seeing this in a non-romanticized type of view? Paradise Island Devils, an insult referring to King Fritz and the audience who fled to Paradise Island. In Titan Studies, Paradise Island threat theory claims the audience who fled there still bear a grudge from the Great Titan War and despise the rest of the world. With the threat of Eren Yeager now apparent, the insult holds truer than ever. And it's so not true because they literally don't know the truth. They've only just learned about it. They had no reason to bear a grudge against the rest of the world because they didn't fucking know it even happened. Oh, frustrating.
10ヶ月前、トロストク鉄道開通祝いでの祝賀会。君の監視係
Wow,
は
everything's
急遽
developing
代
so
役となった。
fast.
フロックフォルスター。縁も竹縄となったあたりで君を近くの宿泊地まで送った彼じゃが、
Oh
現在情
no.
報漏洩罪で拘留されておる。この宿泊地はエレン・イエーガーの住処と数
Has
十
she
キロの位
switched
置にあ
from
った。
blind loyalty to Zeke to blind
どうも
loyalty
こ
to
の時期
Eren?
を境にエレンは単独行動を取るようになるので
What
な。
strings is she pulling?
何にせよ、秘書と会話できる口実ができて何よりじゃ。
What are you up to? What a cruel twist of fate that they end up here of all places.
Gabi!
いや、馬の仕業だと思うぞ。
I think the horse is the devil. Like it's just a
お
horse being
前
a
を乗せて逃
horse.
げる馬なんていないだろうな。じきに世界中の軍隊がこの島に攻めてくるだろう。
And then they can slip out.
兄貴やライナーさんたちが助けに来る。
Or that's his hope at
憎くない
least.
の？裏切り者があんなに近くにいたんだよ。
He just wants to get Gabby out of here and protect
なんで
her.
あんたの妹なの？
どっちでもいいだろう。しかし、カヤさんもですけど、ここで働いている人はみんな若いんですね。
They're all
こ
orphans
こにいる人は孤児だからね。
from when Marley
そうだっ
attacked.
たんですか。
女王の方針で行き場のない子供には支援があるから。ここは4年前に親を失っている子供たちの集まりなの。
この島の民が世界に対して残虐非道の限りを尽くした歴史をお忘れですか？エルディア人一人一人が罪の自覚を正しく持つことで ようやく食材への道が開かれるの
They
です。
don't understand,
それはみ
Gabby.
んなが親を亡くしたことと関係があるの？
当然です。いくら善人のように振る舞おうとも逃れられる罪の重さではあ
You
り
can
ません。
speak from that position, but you never lost your parents.
何言ってんだよ。
Oh, she
これ
knows
は
they're
普
from
遍的な歴
Marley.
史の話だから。
今
She's
なんて言いま
clicked
した
it.
君たちはマーレから来たんでしょ？
She sussed it.
どうして
But she was willing to help two kids in distress because she's a good person.
なんで言ってくれないんですか。
Don't you fucking dare put it down.
何してんだお前は。
悪魔が正体
You
を
can't just kill your way out of
おかしい
everything,
と思ったん
Gabby.
だ。
Jesus.
島の悪魔がこんな親切なはずない。
おいバカかお前。
ミアがお兄ちゃん取られるって焼き餅焼いてるの。
She's protecting them
仲良くしてんじゃん。少しは明るくなってるし。
because she empathizes with them.
私が住んでた村。4年前ここにも巨人が一体
Zeke's
現れたの。
power
その巨人を
destroyed
見た
her
村の人は
family,
みんな逃げた。私はどうすることもできなくて座ってたの。
and Sasha saved
ただ
her.
ここからあそこでお母さんが食べられる音を聞いてた。壁の外には人類がいて、私たちは悪魔の民族だって言ってるんでしょ。でもなんでそんなに恨まれているのかよくわからないの。いや、ベン、教えて。
Nothing.
お母さんは一
She
体
didn't
何を
do
したの？
anything to deserve what
何をした
happened.
からこんなに恨まれているの？
何千年も世界中の人々を虐殺したからでしょ。
You're from the same kind, Gabby.
そんなことも忘れていたなんて。エルディア人は何千年もの間巨人の力で世界
You're
を
also
支
an
配し
Eldian.
蹂躙してきたの。他の民族の文化を奪って望まれない子を産ませて数えきれないほど人
And
を
you
殺して
descend
きた
from
の。
that
被
too.
害者ぶるのはやめて。
でもお母さんはこの辺で生まれ育ったからそんなひどいことはし
So
てな
why
いと
should
思
she
う。
be punished for something she didn't do in the
100年前
past?
あなたたちの先祖が犯した罪の大きさ
But
が
she
問題
didn't
な
do
の。
it.
100年前ってじゃあ今生きている私たちは一体何の罪を犯し
That's
てい
the
るの？
point.
つい
About the
この間だっ
present,
て
not about the
私
past.
の町を蹂躙した。私のお母さんが殺されたのは4年前だからその
You
罪
did
じ
it
ゃない。
first.
だから先祖が世界中の人を虐殺したからお母さんは誰も殺してない。
ねえミア、ちゃんと答えて。なんでお母さんがあんなに苦し
It's
ん
the
で
first
殺さ
time
れたの
she's
か？
been confronted and challenged as to this ideological
そうじゃなきゃお
brainwashing,
かしいよ。
and she can't reason
なん
a
でお
way
母
out
さん
of
は
it.
生きたまま体を食べられたの？ねえ、何の
Aaron
ため
said
に
the
殺され
same
た
thing
の？
to Rhino. Why was my mom eating Rhino?
4年前のパラディ島侵攻の目的は大攻勢を見据えての威力偵察でした。カヤさんのお母さんはそれに巻き込まれたんです。お母さんには何の罪もありません。
Falco
ごめ
gets
んな
it.
さい。
Falco gets it.
軍の情報を
But
敵国
Falco
に
always
戻す。
has got it.
それでなんで謝るの？
Because they're victims too.
ありがとうペン。教えてくれて。
She was just a child.
ベンが
She
謝る
didn't
のは
ask for
おかしいよ。
this.
マーレで生まれただけなのに、今の私より少し年上ぐらいのお姉ちゃんが薪割り用の斧を持って入ってきて巨人相手に戦ったの。
The girl she thinks is a monster isn't a monster.
結局お姉ちゃんは自分を盾にして巨人から私を逃がしてくれた。お姉ちゃんが生きてたら行くあてのないあなたたちを決して見捨てたりしない。私にそうしてくれたように。今度マーレの人が働いてるレストランに
Oh
招かれ
no.
た。そこにあなたたちを連れて行けばマーレに帰る方法が見つかるかもしれない。どうして私はお姉ちゃんみたいな人になりたいの。
Sasha. I knew they were going to rub salt in the wounds. Oh, of course they were going to rub salt in the wounds. She didn't leave them behind because Sasha didn't leave her behind. She helped someone in need because Sasha helped her when she was in need. She's living up to the ideals that Sasha set the minute she rescued her, which is to protect those that need you, even at the risk of your own life. She knew they were from Marley, but she didn't judge them because to her, they needed help and she was willing to give them that help. I can't. And now they're going to go to this restaurant in the next episode and they're going to run into Niccolo. And I don't think he's going to side with them because he was very close to Sasha. If she tells him what she's done because she thinks she can trust him because he's a Malian, she's going to be in for a shock because he actually doesn't side with Marley at this point. He sides with Paradise. But I've just realized that we didn't watch the the post-credit scene. So we're going to have to do that now because I missed it. Nearly missed it. And then I'm probably going to end up talking more because there's still more I need to talk about, apparently.
我々を欺くために自らを亡き者と装ったのだ。ジークはパラディと適正力と手を組み飛行船で逃げ寄せたと見ている。この対人型に改良された立体起動装置にはマーレの技術が取り入れられている。逃走用に奪われた飛行船も訓練を積んだ軍人でないとできない高度な飛行技術を見せた。
Magif is smart.
4年前のパラディ島調査船に同志を忍ばせたのだ。エルディア復権派の同志をな。
くそ、ずっと一緒に戦ってたのに。
This must be such a shock for everyone.
当然このままで済ますつもりはない。今か
They're
ら
going
半
to
年
Paradise.
パラディ島に世界連合軍による掃討作戦を行う。
And they're going.
半年ですか。ファルコとガビの救出も半年後でしょうか。あの二人は最も優秀な戦士候補生です
They're the only two
マーレ
left.
にとっても大きな
The
痛
other
手に
two
なる
have
かと。
died.
次の戦士候補生の育成にも相当な時間がかかりますしね。
だがマーレの力のみでパラディ島を攻めても以前のように返り討ちに遭うだけだ。世界連合軍の集結を待つ。
ジークもそう考えるでしょう。大打撃を受けたマーレ軍はすぐさま攻勢に転じることはないと。そして半年後に潰されるのを策もなしにただ待っている人でもない。世界連合軍を待ってはいられません。
Reiner's gonna go, isn't he? Like now.
今すぐにパラディ島を奇襲すべきです。
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So potentially we could then be seeing a huge battle upcoming. I don't know if it'll be the next episode because it was kind of hinted at that they're going to go to a restaurant. So maybe the next episode will deal with Gabby wrestling with this narrative that she needs to unlearn. And then maybe they'll end with like a little bit of a cliffhanger to this attack. But yeah, clearly Reiner's not waiting. Reiner's going to go whether sanctioned or not. Because again, if they wait, he believes they're playing into Zeke's hands, that Zeke will have something already intended because they're waiting on this global alliance. So in their mind, they're like, we need to strike now when they're least expecting it because they don't think we can. So we're going to prove otherwise. But it's the first time that we've seen Gabby confronted by a narrative that she can't wheedle a way out of. She's saying to her, well, you need to atone for the sins of the past, and that's why your mum died, because it's all your fault because of what your people did in the past. Again, you can see the distancing effect here. She doesn't see herself as an Aldean. I know she sees herself as a good Aldean, a different Aldean, but even then, she's using accusatory language, like, your people, you, not her. She's not seeing herself as part of that. Whereas when she's telling people they need to atone for the sins of the past, that should also be applied to herself. Because, again, she is an Aldean. So she should be atoning for the sins of the past too. But I guess her way of atoning for the sins of the past is by becoming a warrior candidate. But it's just interesting that that use of language is her way of trying to show that she's different in the same way that she wanted to cling on to that band, because if that band is removed, then she's just like every Aldean here. She's indistinguishable because they are her and she is them, but she doesn't want to accept it yet because she's spent all these years being told that the people on Paradise are the bad Aldeans and they make us look bad, and therefore we have to be perfect in order to ensure that we are seen as good Aldeans, and that means getting rid of the bad Aldeans, because if we get rid of the bad Aldeans, then everyone will see how good we are. But it doesn't matter. They're all Aldeans. They all get treated the same. And sooner or later, I think she's going to realize that. She's going to come to terms with it. She's going to be forced to reconcile that this narrative she's been raised with isn't the truth. Again, she's young, she's a kid, she's using violence as the method of getting out of things, but that's because that's how she was raised and trained, and she's known no other way other than to manipulate and to use violence as a way to protect herself. It's annoying and it's frustrating, and I get why people dislike her. She's quite an abrasive character. It's very hard to empathize with her, but I think I still look at it as, if I was raised in Marley under the same conditions, would I be any different? Probably not. I probably would be doing the same thing as her, especially because we've seen the home life that she's had, where essentially she's being told by her aunt, Reiner's mother, if we just wipe out everyone in paradise, then everyone will know that we are the good audience, because they're the bad audience that give us all a bad name. So she's distancing herself and she's pretending that it doesn't apply to her. But this conceptualization of, you have to atone for the sins of the past, you have to atone for what's happened, is directly applicable to her as well. Because she is an audience, whether she likes it or not. Atoning for the sins of the past that she's telling everybody else that they need to do also applies to her. But again, as was mentioned, what did my mum do? My mum was just born here. My mum wasn't alive when that happened. Why should my mum have to bear the brunt of a sin that she was never old enough to understand, let alone participate in, because she didn't exist? Likewise, she's saying to them, I don't judge you for being from Marley because you were just born there. Why are you apologizing for that? It's something you can't help or control. They're being punished for something that's out of their control, for a past that they had no participation in, for a past that they have no memory of, and they're being forced to bear the brunt of that. And I think Gabby's going to eventually come to that understanding of, there really is no justification for this. These people are forced to atone for a sin they don't remember, a sin that they weren't old enough to participate in, and that they weren't born to witness happen. So why are children being punished for the sins of the past? Why is war being built on this non-existent justification? Solely because of revenge, solely because they feel as if they need to avenge the atrocities committed by the audience. But again, they were born here. They didn't ask for this. They don't deserve it. Her mum was living her life. Everyone here was just living peacefully until Marley broke the walls. What did you want them to do? Sit here and die? That's what Carl Fritz wanted them to do, because he saw that as the only way to truly atone for what had happened. But why should they be punished? Why should they have no access to freedom? Why should they become the sacrifice for a history they don't remember, for a history they weren't old enough to participate in, for a history that they weren't born to contribute towards? They deserve to live their lives because they were born into this world, and they deserve to be free in the same way that everyone else is free. Everyone else has committed horrible atrocities, including Marley. Should Marley then go on to bear the brunt of that sin? Should Marley then be subsequently punished for that too? For their mistreatment of the audience? When does the cycle stop? When does it end? When do you stop using the past as a justification for punishing people? Her mum was an innocent. Everyone in paradise was innocent. Nobody wanted this. Nobody asked for this. Nobody was aware of the outside world and the history behind the outside world. So why should they be punished for it? Falco gets it. Falco understands, but also Falco himself has always been kind of disenfranchised with war. He didn't understand why this has to happen, why they have to go to war against paradise, why they're the devil. He doesn't quite believe fully the narrative he's being told by Marley, unlike Gabby. Gabby's essentially using guilty by association as a justification for her mum's death because of something that happened a century ago. Rather than looking at their actions in the present, they're looking at the past. They're so caught up in the past, they're blinded to how the people in paradise haven't attempted to start a war, have had no interest in starting a war, have kept to themselves, have lived in relative peace and harmony because of Carl Fritz's vow. They've had no interest in warmongering. They've had no interest in Marley. Again, didn't know about Marley, but even if they did know about Marley, who's to say that they would have an interest in warmongering anyway? I know that the history was wiped in order to prevent that from ever happening again in case there was a lust for it or a desire to take back what was once theirs. But at the same time, you can't judge people based on the past. You have to judge them on the present. And nothing that Paradise has done in the present is ever a justification for the atrocities that have been committed against them. And Gabby's having to confront that. And that's hard for her because it goes against everything she's been taught, everything she's known. And it's so good to have another child her age actually call her out on it, going, well, what about the people who are living now? How have we sinned? You're punishing us for something that we weren't alive to witness or participate in. How can you justify that? And Gabby can't. She keeps falling back onto that narrative of guilty by association, but she can't quite keep pushing it. She's almost struggling to find a counter argument because the narrative she's clung to is no longer existent. The narrative that she's holding on to doesn't hold up when actually questioned and challenged by the people in Paradise, when she's actually forced to meet them face to face and try and promote this rhetoric. It doesn't work. And Reiner knew that because Reiner was almost begging Eren for forgiveness. He knew that the narrative doesn't hold up. He can't justify it. And again, it was the horror on his family's face when he's talking about Paradise, and nothing he says ever really justifies them as the devils that they've been told that they are, which is why his mum kind of shuts that conversation down, because it's like, this actually goes against everything that we've ever been told. So then she starts reiterating that narrative of, well, they're the bad audience and we're the good audience and they make us look bad and they're the reason why we're suffering today. But that's not true. And Gabby now is being forced to confront that. And I think it's going to be really interesting seeing how that goes forward, how she begins to unlearn that dynamic. She's met someone who is a bad Aldean in her eyes, who is willing to protect her, knew they were from Marley, but still went out of her way to ensure that they had somewhere safe to stay, food in their bellies. She didn't leave them to struggle. She didn't leave them to suffer. She did what she could to protect other people and to be kind to other people in the same way that SASHA protected her. SASHA could have run away and she didn't. And she could have run away and she didn't. She did what she thought was the best action going forward, which is to be kind and benevolent to those in need, which is what SASHA would have done. And SASHA would have been proud of her for doing so. And if only Gabby could have known that. If only Gabby could have known that side to SASHA, she wouldn't have seen SASHA as the devil and therefore as a justifiable target to kill. SASHA wasn't the person that she thinks she is. And I wonder if then she's going to feel guilt once she begins to realize that SASHA isn't this evil person that she's betrayed her to be in her head. Is she going to feel some sense of remorse? Is she going to try and atone for what she's done? How is that going to work with SASHA's family? Is she going to try and reconcile with them? Is she going to apologize? Is she going to unlearn this bias that she's held onto? I think this could be a very interesting portrayal as to how, when faced with who we believe to be the enemy, we begin to find common likeness and common ground, and how that can shift perspectives. In embracing somebody that we view as the other, we begin to unlearn our own resentments, our own internal bias, and we become open to new experiences and new avenues in the world. And again, this is exactly what Armin was wanting, is that if people are given time, they can begin to realize that they're not the enemy, they're not the devils, that they are just people like themselves, but they need time. Marley doesn't have time to reconcile with a shift in perspective, a shift in narrative. And Paradise doesn't have time either to allow them that chance. They can't wait for this shift in perspective because it could take centuries. And in that time frame, Paradise is at risk. Paradise could lose everything. They have to do what they can here and now to protect the people they love and care about and to protect their home, because it takes time to unlearn. But maybe Armin's words aren't necessarily about a shift with Marley. It could be something that happens in the future, but maybe it's also meant to be about the shift in the volunteers, but also the shift in Gabby. Gabby's narrative could begin to shift, her view could begin to shift, and she could begin to understand that these people are no different to herself. She wants to believe that she's something special, that she is a good Aldean. But in truth, nobody in Marley sees her as that. They see her as one of these people. They see her as a devil. She's treated the exact same way. She just is so desperate to be seen as something more, as something better, that she's deluded herself. But now she's being confronted with the fact that that's not true. With the armband removed, she's no different to everyone else. She's the same as they are. And that's why she doesn't want to let it go. But Falco grasped it from episode 2. Falco's always questioned whether you could truly justify war, whether war even needs to happen in the first place. He's never quite agreed with it, and he's always done what he could to protect Gabby as best he can, and he's still doing that now. He's still trying to protect her. He's still trying to make sure that she doesn't get herself in trouble, even at his own expense, even putting himself at risk in the process. And I think he's also somewhat hoping that maybe she'll come to the same realization that the narrative she so desperately clings to isn't the truth. And that if she unlearns that, she'll become more open to viewing the world in a new light, and perhaps becoming less angry and less frustrated at the situation that she finds herself in. That perhaps she can begin to build a new life and a new direction in life that doesn't resort to violence and vengeance. It's interesting, again, that we're beginning to see this extremist side, the people that are spreading the information about Eren as the savior of humanity, as the reason why they won that victory, that Eren needs to be free because Eren needs to lead the way to this new Aldean empire. And of course, Flock is front and center in that. That doesn't shock me. But some of his words almost sound like Erwin's, in the sense that when Hanji says, you know, for leaking that information, you're going to be tried. He said, if it's for the sake of humanity, so be it. That to me sounds very much like something Erwin would say. And I think that was also Erwin's perspective when he planned the coup, was if I have to die for this, then I will. It's a gamble he was willing to take, and likewise Flock's willing to take this gamble on Eren, because if he can't have Erwin as the devil to lead humanity forwards, then the next best thing to him is Eren. And we kind of knew that when he was saying, you know, we need a devil like him, and he's looking at Eren, he's like, Eren's telling us to fight, that we shouldn't just stay behind the walls and die. And I mean, he is technically telling everybody that, like, they need to fight. But it's interesting that we're beginning to see this split between those that don't agree with Eren and those that see Eren as the only hope that humanity has, or the only hope that Paradise has in ensuring that they remain free. As Flock says to Hanji, Eren Yeager will lead our country. Please release him at once. So in his mind, Eren is about to become the leader of this new Aldean empire. And the only person I see mentioning new Aldean empire is Flock. So it does scream very similar language to the Patriots that Grisha was a part of in Malay. And they're challenging the idea of locking him away, because in their mind, he didn't do anything wrong. He's fighting for their protection. He's fighting for their freedom. And he attacked an enemy that was waiting to strike them. I get where Flock is coming from, 100%. In his mind, Eren is the hope for the future, and he's pinning his hopes on Eren. But this language of New Aldean Empire I find quite bizarre, but then again, it's not really any different to Grisha's Patriots. They also, I think, use the term New Aldean Empire as well, and their desire to take the Founding Titan was to rebuild the New Aldean Empire. So Flock very much is mimicking the same language. So it's the same sort of infatuation with a New Aldean Empire, but just in a different form. So Flock is very much leading a similar branch of the Patriots. And I wonder if this is because of Yolanda. Hanji's being critiqued for following due process, for following the law. They've leaked military information that shouldn't have been leaked. But they've done it in order to sway people to Eren's side, to get people to come to his defense. Similar again to series 1, where advocating for Eren as the savior of humanity, as the leader of humanity, as paving the way forward for their freedom from the Titans, and the military police and the higher ups were very like, no, we need to suppress this, we need to get rid of Eren. Like, he can't live because the symbol of what he represents impacts our structure, which also works in conjunction with the flashback that Hanji has to series 3, where she's told, just because you get rid of me doesn't mean that you're not about to step into my role, and then you'll find yourself in the same situation. There's always someone to take my place. And the same thing's happening again. Not by choice, it just is the nature of things. I don't think Hanji does it intentionally, but in the same way that the military police were trying to hide information to protect the public, Hanji's trying to do the same thing. She's trying to make sure that the rule of law still applies, that there's not exceptions to the rules. But it doesn't help when you have people going out and spreading information about Eren and what he's done, and now she's being confronted for detaining him. She's being challenged on this decision when he broke the law, he broke the rules, he put people in danger, put people at risk, and it wasn't part of the plan. There has to be some form of order here. And she's not doing it to be oppressive. She's not intentionally mimicking the people of the secret police, but the point still stands. It's not intentionally hiding information, but it is to try and protect the people of Paradise in the same way that the secret police thought they were also protecting the people of Paradise by keeping the truth hidden. Because it kept them ignorant, it kept them in the dark, but it also allowed them to live a life of relative peace because they didn't know about the threat of the outside world. But at the same time, is it truly peace if the threats always existed, you just weren't aware of it? The answer is no. But Hanji's trying to make sure that there's still law and order here, which is what the secret police were attempting to do as well. Theirs was more extreme in the sense that they were attempting to fulfill the same role that Carl Fritz has passed down, which is ensuring that nobody ever leaves the walls and therefore no one ever learns the truth about the outside world. And they were then tasked to ensure that people remained ignorant, that anyone who did learn the truth or did get too close to the truth were wiped out in the race. And in the same way, Hanji is trying to keep information hidden to prevent split factions, to prevent people from rebelling, to try and make sure that everything is under control, especially now that war's just been declared. She needs to try and keep things in place, but it's interesting how she's now sort of fallen into a similar role as to what she despised in series 3. It's not intentional. Again, she is just trying to do what she believes is best for the people, but so was he. That's what they were trying to do as well. And we were against them because they were killing people solely for speaking the truth. But Hanji's now locked people away for speaking the truth. You could also argue that it is similar because, again, people that know too much would have created discontent and friction. They would have caused society to be divided and they would have turned on each other and fought each other. And Hanji's trying to prevent that from happening too, just in a different way in relation to Eren. So she knows that when one role is done, another steps in to start the act again because she's now finally stepped into that act. And it's not intentional. It is to try and keep peace and try and keep law and order and to try and keep society functioning without everyone being at each other's throats. But she has just ended up falling into the same cycle as what they put a stop to at the beginning of series 3. Again, you can argue the differences in terms of they are aware of their history, that they're not being told that there's no one else out there and therefore they're the last remaining bastion of humanity. They know the truth about the Titans. They know the truth that Carl Fritz vowed to never commit another war, that Carl Fritz was happy for them all to die if that made Marley happy because it was to atone for what their people had done in the past. It is more extreme than what Hanji's doing, but there are incredible similarities because, again, the freedom of information's no longer becoming free because it's being suppressed in order to keep society protected. She's stepped into the shoes that she once despise so much. And I feel so sorry for her because she's trying and she's under so much pressure and it's a horrible situation to be in. And she's doubting whether she's capable of leading right now. And who wouldn't? I would hate to be in Hanji's shoes. It's hard. She doesn't want to be in this position. She's even saying, no, I have more investigating to do. And she's punishing them for breaking the rules of the military. They are leaking confidential information. But it would be hard not to see the parallels between, you know? Hence why he said good luck, Hanji, because I think he also knew that one day this was going to happen. And the idealism of Louise, that she was rescued by Mikasa, and because she was powerless in that moment, she realizes that without power, she cannot protect anything. And now she sees Eren as the power in which to protect Paradise. So she's going to bat for Eren and rebel if that means putting someone in a position that can protect everyone she loves and cares about. But Mikasa can't quite reconcile herself with it because Louise is idealistic and getting herself into a dangerous game, a dangerous situation. And she's trying to get closer to Mikasa because she feels indebted to Mikasa. That Mikasa is almost finding herself unable to quite relate to her and almost seems not disgusted, but kind of put off by her blind sense of loyalty, by her idealism. And you almost have to wonder if maybe she sees a little bit of herself because she's followed Eren blindly as well. She's never quite questioned Eren to the same extent as she's questioned other people. She's always been incredibly loyal to Eren. And this image that she receives, she's talking to Louise. Louise puts her fist to her chest, and then she starts to have these visions in her head. Almost as if, I'm not sure if they're flashbacks or if they're memories that somebody's forcing onto her. Could they be memories forced onto her because they're not as rose tinted as it usually is? When she usually has that memory, it's with the view of Eren as the savior, as a heroic figure, and that's because of her idealistic view of him. This is very harsh, very cold in terms of the color scheme. So it's blue color scheme. The piercing sound is really disorientating. The way that Eren speaks is quite disjointed. It's not the warmth and comforting sound that it was initially when she had those memories prior, and also when we saw that episode. So it seems as if either she's becoming distant from Eren and therefore she's looking at this from a new perspective, or this is a memory being pushed onto her in an attempt to break that idealism, so then it's easier for Eren to go a different direction to her. And it wouldn't shock me if Eren's pushing that memory onto her in a new light to try and get her to break away from him so she's not blindly loyal to him anymore, so that he can then maybe make her disgusted with him, so then he can separate and she won't follow him because she's so loyal to him that she'll go wherever he goes. She'll defend whatever he does. And maybe if he pushes this memory onto her where it's no longer rose tinted, it is brutal and cold and quite jarring, that maybe he can force her to see it in a new light that separates herself from viewing Eren as a savior to viewing him as a ruthless, callous individual that she shouldn't support. I don't know if that would change anything, but it's the way that she grips her head and the tears in her eyes that makes it seem like it's not a voluntary thought, that it's something that's being forced into her mind and she's trying to like fight back against it. She's trying to wrestle her mind back for control. So if the memory is being foisted onto her, then it would make sense as to why she's struggling to kind of break away from that memory. Because again, we usually see this in a more romanticized lens in terms of Eren as this heroic figure that rescued her, that saved her from a horrific fate. Whereas this is very jarring, disorientating. It's a cold color scheme. Eren's voice is no longer comforting when it's saying you're safe now. It repeatedly shows him stabbing that guy over and over and over again, emphasizing the brutality and the callousness of the act itself. And I think it's supposed to push Mikasa away from viewing Eren in an idealized light. So then she'll begin to distance herself, and then he can then happily go on and do what he needs to do without the worry that Mikasa's going to follow behind, that Mikasa's going to attach herself and therefore put herself in danger. Because again, his fundamental mission at heart is to protect Mikasa and Armin. And if it means forcing Mikasa to see things in a less than idealistic light in order to get her to pull away from him, that's something he would do. So I think this is potentially a memory that's being pushed onto Mikasa from Eren in order to get her to distance herself from him, because it's just very sudden in how it comes up. And I guess you could also argue that it's PTSD, but it's too random. Usually with intrusive memories from post-traumatic stress disorder, there's a trigger. There's nothing really that's triggered her. Yes, Louise has put her hand like that, but that hasn't triggered any memories of Eren doing something like that. That's triggered Eren stabbing someone to save her. And again, this has been viewed in a very idealistic, heroic light up until now. And when I say this is callous, I don't mean it in terms of I don't agree with what Eren did. I think Eren did what needed to be done in order to save Mikasa. And again, it's a very fundamental aspect of his character that has sort of fueled my perspective of him as becoming an anti-hero. He does what needs to be done in order to protect the people he loves and cares about, even if the act itself requires getting blood on his hands. He will get blood on his hands for the people he loves and cares about, and I think that's the epitome of who Eren is as a person. And when I watched that episode, I defended what he did because, again, I think he was between a rock and a hard place. He did what needed to be done to protect Mikasa. I still don't disagree with that. But by cold and callous, I mean just the way it's painted in this imagery, it appears very cold and callous. It's almost like the meaning behind it is stripped away, almost as if the purpose is to make Mikasa see the act as not heroic but brutal. Not as a saving thing, but as evidence that Eren is a horrible person. As if to try and awaken her from her viewpoint of Eren as this heroic, idealized figure that can do no wrong. I don't know. It's very jarring. It's very random. And I think, personally, it's a memory that's being forced onto her. And the only person I can see doing that is Eren. And that's because Eren's pushing everyone away at the minute. And Armin said, me and Mikasa will talk to him as a way to try and reconcile with him. And even when everyone was like, well, what do we do if Eren has sided with Zeke and he's sided against us? What then? Mikasa's still defending him. She's refusing to even discuss the idea of anyone touching or harming Eren. She will die protecting Eren. And I think Eren knows that. But I also think Eren knows that he needs to push Mikasa away because Eren's about to go down a path that is incredibly dangerous, that he doesn't want anyone he cares about to embark on. He wants them to be safe. He wants them to be protected. He even said he wants them all to live a long life. I know he's saying that in regards to them taking on the Titan, but I think you could also sway it in this way too. The reason he's cold and pushing everyone away from him is that he doesn't want them to follow him down this trajectory he's about to go on, because we know that this isn't the end of Eren getting blood on his hands. And I think if the hints have been anything to go by in terms of the rumbling, Eren is going to commit some atrocities, and therefore he wants to protect the people he loves by pushing them as far away from him as possible, that they don't follow him down this path. And this is him trying to push Mikasa away because he knows out of everyone that Mikasa will never be able to see him as a monster, and he's trying to make her see him as a monster through this image that he's bombarding into her head. He's stripped away the heroism, he's stripped away the idealism, and he's trying to force her to see him as this brutal, cold, callous monster in order to sever that connection between them. That's what I think. I could be wrong. It's just the way that she's reacting to it she's trying to force it out of her mind. She's squinting her eyes. She's wrestling with it. She's doing what she can to force that memory out. So I don't think that's a post-traumatic stress disorder reaction. I think that is Eren forcing a memory into Mikasa's brain. This is crazy. Honestly, this entire season so far has been absolutely amazing. I am so excited to see how the rest of this plays out. And I'm also very, very sad that this is the final season of Attack on Titan. I don't think I'm emotionally ready to actually accept that this will inevitably be over. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. Obviously, I'm gonna be watching Vinland Saga probably after this is finished because it seems to be the most highly recommended after Attack on Titan, but I don't know how to feel. I think it's gonna be emotionally heart-wrenching for me. I'm probably gonna have to take like a week off of filming reacts after the final episode because I'm not gonna be emotionally able to comprehend what's happened. I think the outro is going to be a lot longer as this series goes on, and I am exhausted. I have talked across 3 episodes for about 4 hours, so my voice is going. So I do apologize if my voice is sounding a little bit hoarse because I am struggling to keep talking because my throat is killing me. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate those of you that watch all the way from the beginning to the end. It really helps boost these videos into the algorithm because it's seen as long engagement time. So thank you so much. And for those of you that watched all the way to the end, not for those of you that skipped ahead because this question isn't for you. If you could be any animal in the world, what would you be and why? I don't know why I thought I would ask that question. I just thought it'd be an interesting one. I'd be a raccoon, and I know that seems like a really weird answer, but like they get fed and they make really cozy little places to rest. They can like get into mischief. I also just love raccoons. I think they're super, super sweet. If you couldn't tell, I have a raccoon plushie in the background. I just love them. I think they're little mischief makers, and I think that's what I would be very good at if I was an animal, as a mischief maker. So I think if I could be any animal, it'd be a raccoon, and if I couldn't be a raccoon, I'd be a red panda. Because I just think they're cool. I just think they're cute and they're cuddly and they're awesome. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you would be and why. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. And until next time, bye!